Welcome to the Free from Wall Street podcast, where we share how we have done over $200 million in real estate deals to create, preserve, and pass on generational wealth without the roller coaster ride of the stock market. If you're ready to start investing with purpose, visit freefromwallstreet.com. But for now, let's dive into this episode. Welcome back to the Free from Wall Street podcast. I'm your host, Steve Lippman. Today, we have a very special guest, David McKinney from NCF. And we're talking about donor advised funds today. So I know a lot of us have had conversations. You've heard about our purpose, right? Investing with purpose, where we carve out a percentage of every deal that we do to a nonprofit so that we can help create passive income for ourselves, our investors, but more importantly, nonprofits. So we can have a everlasting, eternal impact in this world based on the business that God has given us. So we're super excited. David, thank you so much for jumping on here and giving us a little bit of background on NCF.
No problem, Steve. It's great to, it was really great to meet you a couple months ago and explain NCF and who we are and what we do. NCF is the National Christian Foundation. It was started back in 1982 by three guys who were interested in helping people be more generous and enabling them to expand their generosity. And what we do now is we operate a donor advised fund platform that we at NCF call a giving fund. A donor advised fund platform is a really a simple way to break it down is to actually just think about those three words, a donor who advises on where the money in the fund goes. So Stephen, I'll use you and your team as an example. You guys have created a fund with us. I believe, I can't remember what you guys called it. Do you remember your fund name real quick?
The Invest with Purpose Fund.
The Invest with Purpose Fund. So the Invest with Purpose Fund is funded by Stephen and his company. When they close a deal, they've chosen to put a percentage of each deal into their donor advised fund. So they get a charitable deduction when that gift is made into their fund. And then the money sits in the fund as long as they want. They can have it sit in there for a day or a year or 10 years. Right now, there's no limit to how long it stays there. So it's really a great way to make your charitable giving happen so that when 12/31 comes around each year, you're not rushing to figure out who can get the dollars that you intend to be charitable with, but you can get that charitable deduction secure for tax purposes, and then when you come up for air and have time to take a breath, then you can advise where those funds are given. And NCF, we've been in existence almost 40 years and have given to over 63,000 charities in the course of our existence. We have an entire team in Atlanta where our headquarters are that they're our charity research team. And they're the folks in our greater office that look at each and every organization that a donor wants to give to and ensure that they're a 501c3, that they have values that are not antithetical to Christ, that they're just in order, and that we don't lose our status as a 501c3, and that you can give with confidence to an organization and know that they're going to use the funds wisely.
Which is pretty cool, right? Because it takes a lot of the onus off of us to do some of that research. Now, we know a lot of the people that we're giving to that run some nonprofit organizations, but as we continue to grow and we want to give to more and more organizations, we use Charity Navigator, right, to see kind of who is not only registered, but who's stewarding their money well. I always tell the story about like the Red Cross. If you go on the Red Cross and you see how many dollars that come in, go out specifically for that cause, it gives you $1 and a percentage. And sometimes it's as low as 50%. Sometimes it's as high as 98% on Charity Navigator, depending on who you give to. So it's a good place to start doing some research, knowing where you want to fund. But you guys are also doing kind of a second layer of protection for us, knowing like, hey, we dug in a little bit and these guys have their paperwork in order and things like that, which is really, it's nice because, we have a business to run, right? We don't necessarily want to go and
yeah, and it protects you, because if you think you're going to get a deduction giving to a charity that actually isn't a 501c3 or doesn't have their status with the IRS, we make sure that that's in order and won't grant until that actually is the case.
Yeah. So let's dive into some logistics. So for us, when we started doing this, we didn't, as business owners, know exactly how to do it. We just knew that we wanted to give. And, we were praying through how we can start giving now before we got to quote unquote there. I think a lot of business owners have this problem where they think, once I start earning $1 million, then I will start giving. And, we were just kind of praying through, like, how do I do that now? And, the Lord's pretty clear that we could start partnering with him on a deal by deal basis, which was pretty cool because we could grow in the grace of giving. And if you're a Christian, then that's a great principle to understand, is that you don't have to start at the top of the mountain. You could grow in the grace of giving. If you're a non-Christian, it's also a great principle, is you don't have to be there yet just to start writing checks, right? For us, we decided to earmark 1% of the income from one deal and start doing it. And then we did another deal and another deal and another deal. And we said, wow, this is starting to create some headaches from the accounting side, right? That we didn't necessarily think about, because now we have this deal that's producing X and we're giving 2.5%, and this deal that's creating Y and we're giving 5%. And then we started, it was a friend of ours, Ashton and Chris Leverett from Valkyrie, that referred us to you. And we started digging into, okay, so what's the benefit of a fund doing it this way? And in the last 30 days, we've given a good amount through the fund, but it's streamlined the process so much. So talk to us a little bit about that. If a company wants to come in, what's the setup process look like? How easy is it to divert funds from my business account into that donor advised fund? And then when do I get to make distributions? Is it automatic, or do I just kind of do it willy-nilly, or what's my options with that?
So it's super easy, and that's one of the things that we think is so wonderful about using the Giving Fund platform with us. Is that if you were to go on to ncfgiving.com today and decide, hey, I want to open a fund, you could do that in probably 5 minutes or less. At the top right of the webpage, there's an open a fund button. You click on that, and it's just a pop-up window, and you just fill out the form. And bam, your fund's open. And it might take a couple days for the back office stuff on our end to happen, but your fund is open and you can start pushing money into it. You can fund your fund in a number of different ways, and it's very easy, very basic to do. You can do that through a physical check. You can do it through a credit card, debit card, e-check from your bank account, wire transfer. I mean, we'll take stocks and mutual funds if you have highly appreciated securities and don't want to end up paying the cap gains on that. That's something that we can do. And we can also, very, very interesting, even from a personal perspective, when you look at your own personal charitable giving. If you want, looking at, hey, how do I hold on to my cash and still be generous? Instead of having to pay cap gains on the Tesla that you've owned for a year that had like a huge run, you can gift Tesla, and that's a way to fund your funds so you have dollars to give away. So we receive stocks and mutual funds like that and liquidate them the next business day, and then the proceeds of that would go into your giving fund and be cash for you to give away. So on the distribution side, we're basically kind of your charitable checking account. We'll receive whatever or however how often you want to give into your giving fund. Steward, we have 5 different investment pools that you can put that in. So your money just doesn't sit there and not grow. You have the opportunity to choose how it can be invested while we hold it. And then we kind of look at it as I mentioned before, a charitable checking account. When you're ready to say, hey, Red Cross, since you mentioned Red Cross, Wounded Warrior, local church, local mission, local rescue mission, whatever the charity is, you say, hey, I want to earmark $1,000, $10,000, $100, whatever it is. I want to earmark it to that. You just go on to your giving fund and grant it out, and a check will be mailed to that charity within the next couple of business days, and they'll receive it. One of the benefits too that some folks might be interested is that you can give anonymously through your giving fund as well. So as you probably know, when you click a button on the internet that you're interested in something, you are now bombarded forever from their organization because you expressed just the tiniest bit of interest. So same thing with giving. the checks come from the National Christian Foundation, but they would list you as the giver. If you want to do it anonymously, we have the ability to do that for you as well. So it was
a little bit. Go ahead.
One other thing, you can set up recurring gifts and grants. So just like your kind of like your automatic web bill pay on a lot of your bank accounts, if you want to give $100 a month, you can, and you have the funds in your giving fund, you can set that up for like the next 3 years, and it'll automatically like every month happen without even thinking about it. You can do that on the giving side as well.
What I love about that, at least from a multifamily perspective, is we have a general idea of the income coming in every month, right, from rental properties. So, if we forward fund about a quarter and then we auto give, right, it creates consistency. And if you guys have listened to the podcast where we've had some of our nonprofits come on, it's a big deal for them to know consistently what they have coming in. A $10,000 check is nice, but I've had multiple nonprofits tell me that they would much rather know that they have $500 a month coming in perpetuity versus a $10,000 one-time hit, because they can't budget off of that, right? So if you can help them out, because you're finding out what their needs are. So through our fund, we can just set up automatic giving. If the money's in the account, great. But we can set up some automated payments for them. So it was a little bit of a leading question in terms of like how easy it was, because we just went through it. And if you guys know us, done is the new perfect, right? So how do we get it done? What makes it simple? We don't want to clog up the team by having this be a big portion. And we earmarked one of our team members to run this side of the business. And we were actually going to give her 15 to 20 hours a week to just focus on nonprofits and giving. And this, it's less between communicating with all of the nonprofits and then the small amount of time that it takes for the donor advised fund. It's literally a couple hours a month now. And it's forced. We're forcing her to get content from the nonprofits. That's where most of the time sits. This literally was set up the next day after we had a call with David. And it was like, I Voxered my team. I said, hey, what are we doing about this? And they're like, oh, it's already set up. We already have funds in it. We're distributing funds like this week. And I was blown away because it was super simple. And the reason that I keep hammering on how simple it is because there's no excuse for an entrepreneur to not have one of these set up by the end of next week and start growing in the grace of giving. Like, I know that the people in this space have huge hearts. They want to create an impact. They're already creating an impact with their investors, creating passive income. They're already creating an impact in the communities where they own thousands of apartments. But now, more than that, and the people that have hearts for nonprofits, and I think the majority of the community does, might not have a very simple way of doing it. And then as a side note, my family and I are setting up our own family donor advised funds, because who knows that you want to give maybe a little extra to Samaritan's Purse, or you support a local missionary from your church, or you want to give a little bit extra here, or you just want to automate your tithing, which is what we're going to do, right? So that it's all in one place. Because if you're a little bit like me with a visionary brain, maybe you don't keep all of the tax receipts that they send you at the end of the year in 35 envelopes for tax time, because I'm always missing some of them. So I know I'm missing deductions. Here, through the donor advised fund, it's one statement, right? Like, it's just all of your giving is right here, and I can print off that statement and I can support it.
That's one of as an employee, I get a fund, but for this past year, it was incredibly simple for me to file my tax return, because I had all my giving on one sheet of paper, or two, depending upon how many gifts you've got throughout the year. But it's and I don't know if you're like I've been in the past where you're like, oh, I forgot to bring the check to church, or forgot to always do the text giving, or whatever the excuse or reason is. Yep. Now giving is so, we make it so easily to automate it that you don't even have to think about it. You think about it once and it's done. And I've knocked out my tithe for the year in 5 minutes, where every paycheck I've got that amount that comes out, and I'm being faithful in a manner that I wasn't before. So that's kind of cool.
It's amazing. Well, if you want to go to ncf.org, is it?
ncfgiving.com.
ncfgiving.com. So you can start your fund. I'll leave David's information at the bottom of the podcast here, so you can reach out to him directly if you have any questions for you and your organization. They do, we're not going to get into it on this podcast, but they do an incredible amount of things. There are people that literally gift companies through their donor advised fund to get, there's crazy things that you can do. You can gift all kinds of alternative investments, sometimes even real estate, which we're going to be looking into as we continue to grow and leave in trusts and stuff. So there's a lot of information, but this should prime the pump and just make it very simple for you guys who are entrepreneurs and even investors alike to automate your giving, to really help make the impact where you want it to go in a very tangible way. Be intentional about it. Like everything else in your life, you have to be intentional about your giving. And I'll tell you, once you start doing it and you start seeing the impact that it creates, all you want to do is put more and more into these funds. Our whole team now, every Monday, when we look at income and expense statements, it's really cool to see how the business is growing. But the entire focus is how much can we shift into this donor advised fund? How much more impact can we make into the world? And it's been an incredible team motivator, because we're going to start letting them choose the next nonprofit, right? Let your employee choose the next nonprofit that you're going to give through your donor advised fund. See what kind of buy-in you get from your employees when they know that the business's purpose is to give to things that affect their heart. They're never leaving. They're not going to look for another job. And the community that you start to create is incredible. So, there's so many intangibles and tangible benefits from a donor advised fund. So thank you so much, David. Any parting shots that you want to give to us?
No, I could go on and on. We could talk again another time about how you can give non-liquid gifts like real estate, like you mentioned, and some of the benefits of that are multi-layered and multi-level. We have about 30 affiliates across the country. So depending upon where your listeners are from, there are different affiliates around the country that can serve other givers. I'm in Orlando. Steve, you're obviously in New Jersey, but it's a very relationship-based organization. So I'd be happy to serve your folks that listen. And one way that you would do that is if you do decide to open a fund, or if you want to talk to me. I know Steve said that he was going to put my information down. I'd be happy to correspond with or talk with anybody. But if you want my office to serve you, just click on the Orlando when you open the fund, when you pick the geographic region. So we'd be happy to serve and happy to help and help you be more generous and strategic in your giving.
Love it. Thank you, David. Appreciate it so much, man. Thank you for your time. Go to ncfgiving.com, start a fund. Let us know, right? Click the subscribe button, hit the comments. Let us know that you did it, who you're giving to. We want to create a community of abundance. So go out, invest with purpose. Thanks for checking out the Free from Wall Street podcast. Check you next time. Thanks for listening to the Free from Wall Street podcast. If you like what you hear, leave us a rating and review and let us know what you think.